for more on this, we are now being joined by Rishi Agarwal, who is the CEO and co-founder of TeamLease RegTech. He's now joining us from Pune. Let me begin by asking you, so how complex is India's regulatory environment and what has changed in the last few years?
Well, Jyotsna, good morning. Thanks for having me on the show this lovely morning. India's regulatory environment is very complex. There are 1,536 unique acts and rules that affect doing business in India. Subsumed in them are 69,233 unique compliances across 7 categories of the law at 3 levels. And there are about 6,618 filings that entrepreneurs have to comply with from a total ecosystem point of view. A small company with a single state operation today deals with close to 1,000 unique compliances and about 2,500 total compliances in a year. Now, if you translate that into about 250 business days, that's about 10 compliances a day. A mid-sized company with about 5 manufacturing plants in India deals with about close to 12,000 compliances, which is about over 50 compliances a day. That's the landscape at a larger level. That's not it. There are 2,233 unique websites in the country that publish regulatory updates. There are about 8,000 plus regulatory changes in a year. A small company gets affected by about 500 of these regulatory changes. A mid-sized company deals with over 1,000 to 1,500 regulatory changes in a year. There is no single source of truth. Most of these compliances are managed in an ad hoc, paper-based and people-dependent compliance program in the corporate India. That's the complexity of compliance in India. Now, the second part of your question, Jyotsna, what has changed in the last few years? A lot has changed. A lot has changed for the better. You see, in 2017, GST came along. 17 different indirect tax regimes were subsumed into one tax regime. It was highly automated. Obviously, we continue to make progress on that and improve the level of automation, but I think we are getting there. In 2019 and 2020, we legislated the codes, the 4 codes on labor, which kind of changed the trajectory for our labor laws. Although we are waiting for implementation yet, but the 4 codes were legislated through the passage of parliament. That's a big change. Government is largely going digital. While going digital, we have created 2,000 plus websites, which is the bad news, but I think positive changes have happened. Jan Vishwas 1.0 happened last year, which kind of decriminalized 182 compliances under 42 different acts. So I think things are changing for the better.
Right. Now that you mentioned technology, could you also make us understand why are we seeing an increased adoption of technology for better compliance?
Of course. We see that RBI came out with a mandate for implementing tech-based compliance management solutions in all the banks and NBFCs of a given size. Now, that came as a notification in January of this year. And we think that similar notifications are going to come out from the other governments departments as well, because sheer number of compliances that the corporations have to deal with are tens of thousands as they grow in size. There is no way that one can bank on their memory or adopt Excel-based processes in order to manage these compliances. Technology-based assurance processes are a must. So I'm not surprised that government is going down in that direction.
And do you see regulatory technology actively contributing to the direct filing of other compliances?
Of course. So far, only a bunch of our regulators, the CBIC, the CBIT for direct tax and indirect tax, have enabled API-based filings. Most others still have working websites. Each one of them have a different way of logging in. Each one of them have different ways of filing. So all of those are still creating complexity. And the way I see it is API-based filing is going to simplify the way people do their compliances. So some of these platforms will see significant growth in the near term.
Right. And before I let you go, could you also give us an overview of the criminalization of India's employer compliances?
Thanks, Jyotsna. That's my favorite topic. Gautam Chikarmane from Observer Research Foundation and I co-authored a book titled Jailed for Doing Business, which does dissection of 26,134 clauses of imprisonment embedded in India's 69,233 compliances. Basically, 2 out of every 5 compliances in the country carry clauses of imprisonment going from 3 months to about 10 years. A lot of them are embedded in our labor laws. So 68% of the criminality comes from labor laws. And within the labor laws, almost 50% of it comes from the Factories Act of 1948. The other categories contribute to about 8,000-9,000 items. Jan Vishwas 1.0 started the process of decriminalization. All the tactical lapses and minor contraventions were started to decriminalize via a single act. We are expecting that a lot more can be done in Jan Vishwas 2.0.
All right, that was Rishi Agarwal, who is the CEO and co-founder of Team Lee's RegTech. Thank you so much for joining us on the show and giving your insights.
Thank you.